Well, hello Josh, how are you? Hi Daniel. It's Northern Briars. Package arrived today. I've been waiting patiently to open it. I've been desperate to open it, but I figured I'll wait to do it together with my YTPC friends. Hey Tim. I've also not had a pipe yet today. Not since yesterday afternoon. So we've got to set that right as well. I think a good way to go, start things off, would be some London fog. As soon as I find my tray, here we are. A Monty 4, that sounds good. I haven't had the Monte Cristo for a long time. Well, besides for the Dantes, the 2016 limited. But I haven't had a regular line number 2, Petit number 2, Edmondo. Even the small ones, the Medio Corona, is it called? That's a pretty spicy smoke as well. Northwoods for Daniel. Very nice choice. I like that. No, Daniel. No pipe today. I don't work on a Saturday, so no pipes today. But we will be opening this package from Northern Briars. In there should be the repaired pipe and also my latest new acquisition in this series, which hopefully will end up in a 7-day set. So this is pipe number 2. Pipe number 3 is ordered, and that will probably take 4 to 6 weeks, something like that, maybe longer. And I've already, I think I've decided what pipe number 4 is going to be as well. Petit Edmundo's, very nice jack. What year are they from? Well, Daniel, that's a really good question. If I had the choice sitting in front of me with ideal vintages, then I don't know. I mean, I think the natural answer would be Cohiba, but I'm not so sure. It really would depend on which Vitola I've been offered. 2015, nice. That's very nice. It really would depend on the years and on the sizes of the. So, for instance, if I was offered, say, a Petit number 2 against a Cohiba Robusto, and say they both had 5 years on them, without a doubt, I would go for the Cohiba Robusto. If I was offered the Petit number 2 with 2 years on it, and the Cohiba Robusto with 2 years on it, there's a good chance that I'd go for the Monte Cristo, because the Cohibas seem to need a little bit longer to mature. I'm trying to decide what to do with this pipe. This is a Leswood pot, quite a big pipe. I'm trying to decide whether to sell it as it is or to convert it to 9mm. I've not seen one like this from Les. I know he did some big pipes. I had once a really big bulldog of his, but this one's got just a great look about it. I just polished it. That's all I've done. Nothing else. It's in original condition, original stem. Got the LJS on there. Really, really nice pipe. The Cohiba Behike, well, that's certainly a luxury cigar. And if you believe what everybody says, then yes, the Behikes are a very nice cigar. I've had a few. Some have been better than others. It's not readily available as well, so you have to be lucky to find it in stock. Although I think that at the moment they are in stock in quite a few places. But you're talking about, to buy it retail, you're probably talking about, here in the UK certainly, you'd probably be talking about over £100 a cigar. The 52 ring gauge, which is my preferred one out of the three sizes that there are. I've had, the first one I had was fantastic, really, really great. I think after that I had a 54, which I didn't enjoy really. I don't think I enjoyed it at all. Cohibas, I think sometimes can be a bit hit and miss. It certainly depends on how old they are, like I said before. The Talisman was supposed to be, the next best thing since sliced bread, the 2017 limited edition. I have one single in my humidor. Tried it. The one that I had, really didn't think that much of it at all. And in fact, those are available around still, if you look around, because they didn't get as well received as previous Cohiba. I mean, put it this way, the 2014 Cohiba Robusto Supremos, which I had at one point, I think I had 3 or 4 boxes of them. A couple of those boxes got sold before my daughter's wedding. I made a little bit of money. I thought I'd make more, I must be honest. I think I made about £200 on each box, which is not bad. Hey, Jeffrey. Number 6 is selling them for how much? $385 per single. Wow. Well, look, number 6 is it's a premium brand. It's a new brand, and it's AJ Patel. It's basically his new branch in central London. He still has Havana in. I can't remember what the area is called. I can't remember. But anyway, I've been to his other shop. But yeah, I mean, he's you're paying retail prices. Hey, Boca, how you doing? Teddington, that's it, yeah, Jack. But that's what you expect to pay. I mean, if you'll pay the same kind of prices in. You go to Davidoff in St James's, you'll pay the same kind of prices. You go to JJ Fox's, they'll be similar, a bit less than Davidoff. And you go to Dunhill, it'll be a little bit less than JJ's, but they'll all be quite similar. There'll be maybe a difference of 5% between them. But you pay, you go to central London, that's what you pay. Hey Chad, how you doing? So yeah. I haven't had the chance to watch anybody's videos yet. As you know, I don't do social media on Saturday. I saw that Chad had a few videos up, but I haven't watched them yet, Chad. So, I'm going to load up. Let's see, should we load up the Shape 55? Daniel, in terms of the burn with Cuban cigars, a lot better than they used to be, to my personal experience. The issue with the draw is still an issue, a lot better than it used to be, but still an issue. I know that if I get a box of A. Chapman Connoisseur No. 1s, which is one of my favourite cigars, I know that almost for sure that there'll be, out of 25 cigars, there'll be at least somewhere between 5 to 10 cigars which are almost unsmokable, and a few more which are smokable but really tight. But they're a lot better than they used to be. That's my personal experience, but they are still it's just not good enough, really. I mean, you look at the New World cigars, and they beat them hands down in construction, invisible beauty, if you can ascribe such a word to a cigar. But the way they so uniform, the way they're rolled, they look so much better. And in the Cuban cigars, to get cigars consistently looking like that, you have to be paying for reservers. For the high-end stuff, really high-end stuff, for Bahiques, and as I say, reservers. Those, and they cost an absolute fortune. I've never had a reserva cigar because they're just ridiculously expensive. Rocky Patels, I find them too spicy for me. When it comes to strength of cigars and tobaccos, I find with cigars I'm pretty tolerant. I've probably got quite a high tolerance, but when it comes to that really sort of chili heat pepperiness, I don't enjoy that, and I find that the Rocky Patel ones can be really quite peppery. Hey Tony. Yeah, especially selected. I'm about 3/4 of the way through a box myself. Very nice cigars. I just find that most of the time, because they're Cubans, you have to let them sit for a while, and I don't have a bottomless pit in my humidor. I've usually got maybe one box of something and another box of something else, and a few 10 count boxes. I find those a lot easier to afford. And they don't usually last long enough for me to really appreciate them when they're 7 or 8 years old, because they're usually smoked by then. Interesting you should say that, Jack, about the perfect draw tool. I've got the perfect draw tool. And for me, I'm actually not a big fan of it. Certainly it can make a cigar smokable, a cigar that's blocked, it can make it smokable, but I never find that it actually makes the cigar smoke as it should. Nearly always have issues with it overheating or the burn going wrong. If a cigar hasn't been rolled right, it just is never going to be right. You can stick that tool through it 100 times, it's never going to be right. I very, very rarely find a cigar that's really tight or blocked. Use the tool, and I enjoy the smoke as I would without it having been blocked in the first place. Like I said, you can make it smokable, but that's about as far as it goes. I think the 10 count boxes are fantastic. I'm very appreciative that there is such a thing as a 10 count box. Just makes a big difference, because the average box is 24 or 25, so it's less than half the money to buy a 10 box, and it just makes it completely, you can have a variety of cigars that way. And it's just the thing is as well is that once you start those boxes, they do go down very quickly. That's also true. In terms of the humidity and the temperature, in here in my office is where I keep them. I have a fridge that I use, and I must be honest, it's I have a couple of Zycar gel containers in mine. It does fluctuate a little bit, but the temperature, the humidity of the devices that I use are set at, I think, 69. But it does fluctuate. Fluctuates with the weather a little bit, but because it's a fridge, it's airtight. So generally, thank God, I've not had any issues. You know, a lot of fuss is made about humidity and temperature and all of that. Cigars do have a certain amount of tolerance either way, unless you're an absolute aficionado and you smoke 3, 4, 5 of them a day and you can tell the difference between one and the other. You know, if there's like a half a degree or a degree difference, I've certainly not noticed any difference. I don't consider myself an aficionado, but I've never noticed really a major difference. Obviously, if it's dry, that's a problem, or if it's soaking wet, that's a problem. But it's really about the aging more than anything else. You know, if you, when I smoke the cigars, I like them to have a little bit of humidity in them. But if you're aging, same with pipe tobacco to some extent, although, you know, most people don't control the temperature and humidity with pipe tobacco, but if you're sort of aging something long term, you leave it in the tin if you want to, and you let it, and that will age slower but in a more controlled sort of way. If you want it to smoke it in the short to medium term, you stick it in a jar and it will start to age possibly a little bit quicker because of the oxygenation and that kind of thing. A similar kind of scenario. Lanceros, you're right, Daniel. It's because of the smaller ring gauge. And also you'll find as well that the wrapper on a Lancero will have more of an effect on the flavor, because there's a greater proportion of wrapper to filler. It's still only a small fraction. The amount of filler that they manage to somehow squeeze into cigars, I don't know how they do it, but on a fat 56 ring gauge cigar, the wrapper is a tiny proportion to the rest of the cigar. If you have a 32 ring gauge cigar, a really slim, almost panatella kind of cigar, the wrapper is going to be a much higher proportion. It's still only a small proportion, but it's still, percentage-wise, it's higher. So the wrapper can have an effect on the flavor. And the same applies to the filler and the binder. So they all have an effect on your cigar, on the balance of the cigar and the blend itself. So if you imagine, say, a Cohiba, which is supposed to have some of the choicest top leaves of the plant, which gives it that richness. And usually, let's say you have one leaf in a Robusto. Say you have one leaf of the top leaf of the tobacco plant. If you have that, say, in a 52 or a 54 ring gauge, the amount of filler compared to that top leaf is going to be a much greater proportion, and that top leaf is going to be a very small proportion. Imagine that top leaf in a Lancero with half the ring gauge, so you're going to have that top leaf plus half the amount of filler. It's going to have a much greater effect. You're going to have a much richer smoke. So you're right there. Two tins from this year that both had some good plume starting. Yeah. What tobacco is that, Chad? Which version of was it Haunted Bookshop or Jack Krantz? Joe Krantz? Hey Tree, how you doing? Hey James. Box press or round? Well, because I generally smoke Cuban cigars, so they're generally round. There's not that much in the way of box press with Cubans. Yeah, I would go with that, Jack. I actually find that with Cuban cigars, the percentage of tight and blocked cigars in Laceros is quite a bit higher. because I think that you have to. Spark plug. I haven't tried either. How come it's got a British flag all over spark plug? Is that a GLP's blend? Right. You can see how much use my BRTV mug is going. It's starting to rub out. The letters are coming off. Is it an English blend then? Spark plug. Classic cars, right. Interesting. Oh, of course, spark plug. I get it. Is that part of a series, or is it just a one-off? Well, Andrew Sirigliano has experience with the new Savinelli blends. He's actually, I think there's some in the post on the way to me. He wanted me to try. I'm looking forward to getting that. I think it's got some Orientals in there. Well, I'm smoking London Fog at the moment. Very reliable, easygoing blend. So, you guys ready to see the two new pipes? There's nearly 30 people watching, it's enough, I think. Sun Bear is a nice blend. I've chooched my way through this tin. There's still a few bowls left. But I hear now that it's being reissued, so that's really cool. The thing is that with Cornell and Deal, with the small batches, you don't know if it's going to be exactly the same or not. What I find interesting is because I'm smoking a lot of these sort of whiskey aromatics and the vanilla ones, and I haven't been too choosy as to which pipes I smoke it in at the moment. If it's going to be a long-term thing, then I'm going to have to dedicate pipes, but it's interesting to smoke some blends after other blends. So it's interesting after the whiskey blend to smoke, say, London Fog, which is a Virginia blend. It's interesting, you get a few little notes coming through of the previous smoke. It's interesting. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Chacom has a tobacco out as well. I must be honest that generally speaking, I can't say this always, but generally speaking, I always found it a little bit weird that pipe companies issued tobaccos. And to me, it's there are some exceptions, of course, but to me, it's always seemed a little bit too capitalist. People capitalizing on their name to issue tobaccos, and a lot of the time they're just very run-of-the-mill kind of tobaccos. And I'd much rather that they focus on the pipe making and let the blenders focus on the blending. If GLPs was, although you do get some issuing pipes as well, but it's really just a collaboration. They're not actually doing it themselves, that's for sure. That would be quite rare, I think, if we found a pipe maker to actually blend tobaccos. One of the only ones I can think of, and that's more of an artisan blender, and that's Northwoods. He makes pipes and he blends tobacco, but it's quite rare. Peter Stockerby, he has released some pipes, and they have released pipes in the past as well. at the moment, the current range of Peter Stokkeby pipes are made by Nirup. Absolutely, I understand that, Giri. Hi. And they're just, as I say, capitalizing on their name to sell tobacco. And there's nothing wrong with that, it is a capitalist world, and good for them to make some money on that. But I've always just found it a bit weird. After watching Professor Jeremiah's and Three Rivers Piper interview with Eric Stokkeby, well, actually it's Stokkeby. The Americans seem to say Stokkeby, but it's Stokkeby because he himself pronounces it Stokkeby. So I had a look at his pipes. I went into GQ Tobaccos. He's got some of those fourth generation pipes, but I didn't pull the trigger. I'm really, 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 really wanting to get a Castello pipe. I'd like to have at least one and try it and see what it's like. So I've got to find the right one that will convert easily to 9mm. I've had my eye on a few. Still not pulled the trigger. Colas and Cop, you like them or you don't like? The Cornell and Deal versus Colas and Cop? Is there any reason why you picked those two, or those are just examples? It's expensive, James. If you're in the US, it is expensive. You're looking at about, I think I would say a minimum of $20. When I send my pipes out to people internationally, I just charge a flat fee. Most times it comes in around that fee, maybe a drop under, but sometimes it goes over. But you win some, you lose some. I charge £12.50, which is probably about $16, $17. I just got this pipe from Phil Rivara, which he sent back to me. I had him convert this to 9mm, one of his pipes, and he paid, I think, $23, something like that, or maybe more. So it's not cheap. So if you are ordering from the States, it's kind of a balancing act, because in terms of customs and things like that, because if you order too much, the temptation is, of course, to make it worth your while to order enough so that the postage, if you buy one tin and you pay $20 postage, you've kind of lost the whole point. Because a tin of tobacco here, a 50-gram tin, is going to cost about £15-16. So you're talking about a minimum of around $20 for the tin. In America, you're talking about, on some blends can be as low as $10 for a tin, but I think on average they're somewhere between $12 and $15 for a tin. So when converted, it's around half, well, not quite half the price, but a third off the price. If you buy enough tobacco, then it's worthwhile, even with the cost of the postage. But the problem is getting that balancing act right. The larger the package, I find, in my experience, I've always found that the larger the package, the more chance of it getting stopped on the way. That's been my experience. So if you take it easy and you get 2 or 3 tins, it's usually okay. Obviously, depending on how it's declared. That's very nice of you, James. I don't usually, I'm not mad on receiving tobacco unless it's something which I can't get here, which has been released and I really want to try. I'm obviously very grateful that people want to send, but I don't encourage it simply because of, number one, I've got enough tobacco. I don't need to just raise my stock just for the sake of it. And whilst I appreciate it, I really do. Don't get me wrong. I will usually reserve those occasions, those risks of running the gauntlet for blends that I really want to try. Yeah, sure, James, DM me, no problem. 50-gram tins, but on average. Yeah, a while back, you're right, Daniel. Very well observed. He did have, and he gave me first option on it because he told me about it in advance. But it was out of my budget. And it wasn't a 9mm Castello, it was a Castello which somebody had converted. They're very steadfast, Castello, in not making any 9mm pipes. Hey Jeff, how you doing? Hey Andy, where are you, in the UK or in America? Where are you? What cigar have you got in your mush today, Jeff? My back scratcher. You're in Kent. Well, let me see, here in the UK. Oh, there's no shortage of tobaccos which don't have a soapy taste. The soapy taste ones are going to be the ones which are Lakeland flavoured. Just get start on something like full Virginia flake if you like Virginias. Just get anything without Lakeland in it and you should be fine. No shortage of tobaccos these days. Cheeseburger, how you doing? Alright, I think it's time to get this package open. So if you guys remember, that's a very good idea to get off the ciggies, to use pipes. Very good idea. If you guys remember, I sent off a pipe that I'd made and had issues with a shank. I sent it off to Ian to sort out for me. So I'm very excited to see that. And I've got pipe number 2 in my series, which hopefully will end up being a 7-day set. We'll see how we go, but that's the style of the pipe. But I'll be getting them all in different shapes, but with these same colouring, same band, same stem. I need to find out where to get these boxes from. So much safer than sending them in soft packages. Alright, so it looks like this is the one that I sent him. Let's see what he's done with it. So he's put a horn extension on. And he said he would be sanding it, so I'd have to restain it, which is fine. Oh wow, much more colour on this side. And he's made an ebonite stem, I believe, for it. I don't think I've had a pipe with a horn extension before. Yeah, I think I am going to keep it. It's actually a really nice pipe. I haven't fully decided yet, but there's a good chance that I will keep it. It's got a really nice grain and a very nice plateau as well. You know, really nice, fine, small nodules. I just want to see if this is a standard one. Yeah. As I say, I've never actually smoked through a horn shank extension. Curious what that would be like. Interesting. Alright, so that was pipe number one. This was known as, I don't know if it's available anymore, this is the UKPK. It's known as. It's a regular slip, whatever you call it. It's not a locking knife. You're not allowed to have a locking knife here. But it's got really good, I think they call this jimping. So you've got a really good spot here to put your hand in, and so it can't fold on you. And it folds very easily. And it opens. It takes a bit of a while to loosen that, so you can open it single-handed. And I need to clean the blade. I've just gone through a lot of glue on that package. But it's a great knife. Hey Downick, thank you for joining. Hey Charlotte, thank you for joining. Okay, so let's have a look at the second pipe. And this one I have not seen. Obviously that one I made the bowl, so I know what it looks like. But this one I do not know. I haven't told anybody what shape this is. It is a sandblasted panel. Northern Briars Premier, rocks cut, handmade in England, 20, Group 4. And there it is. Nicely done. Nice blast. It's a little bit smaller. I told him to make it a little bit smaller. I find this one a little bit too heavy. So let's just put them in there. I'm not sure if that's because it's been smoked. I don't know. I think I haven't smoked it enough to really create a different shade, but it certainly looks like a slightly lighter shade on that one. I'll have to ask Ian about that. Very nice drill, nice and open. That looks like at least 4 mil. I think it could even be more, so that's good. I'm not sure how he does these rings, because I think he makes them himself. So they're quite sort of custom made. Giovanni Flores. Good evening. Hi Maui, how you doing? Living the dream. Another item I picked up recently, well actually my son picked this up. This is a Dunhill roller gas. It's in very nice condition. It's quite small. I managed to change the flint, and that works very well. But the gas, for some reason, the gas doesn't stay in. And I think, I'm no expert, but I think the valve is broken. There's no pin coming out there. And you can see it there. I think there should be a pin coming through. Anyway, I went on eBay. I mean, to send this in for repair to a professional, I'd probably be looking at anywhere from £100 to £150. The guy in the shop, my son went into one of the shops that near where he works. He goes in there quite regularly for work, and the guy said he could have it for £70. And on eBay, a decent one, you're looking at about £150 if it's working. So I had a look at it and then realised it was broken. And I told my son to offer him £50 because I'm going to have to go and get it repaired. And the guy accepted. So I went on eBay and I've bought the whole sort of valve assembly, which you just literally, as far as I can tell, you can see these grooves here on the side. And I think the whole thing just unscrews with a screwdriver, comes out, put the new one in, screw it in, job's a good one. That's what I'm hoping. If that doesn't happen, I've still got it at a good price. So even if I've got to pay to have it repaired, I think it's still worth it. It's nice to have a premium lighter. Hey Mike, how you doing? Yeah, it looks like it's the right, it's a genuine lighter, I'm pretty sure of that. Just the pin in the filler looks like it's snapped off. So it's as soon as I get gas in there, it just spits it straight out. You hear it going hissing for a few seconds and it all goes. Oh, no pin. Oh, well then it's seized up, one of the two. But it just won't retain, either it's seized or the O-ring has gone. Okay, I get that, no pin. Anyway, so the replacement one that I bought is a whole unit which is fully compatible and just goes in. But when you normally put gas into a lighter, is there no moving part, a sprung part there at all? Usually there's like you've got to have some way of opening the valve to get the gas in, and this one, it just feels sealed. It feels solid. I don't know if it's supposed to be or not. You don't feel it. But either way, it's leaking. Because I'm pretty sure the gas went in it. I felt the lighter cool down, so that's a pretty sure sign that the gas has gone in. But it straight away leaks out. The rubber bottom seal is history, yeah, could be. As I say, I've got no knowledge at all about these lighters, so I think that whole assembly might be a good option. If it works, great. If not, it comes as a whole unit, Mike, so hopefully it'll be all right. It comes as a unit, the actual filler itself. You take the whole filling section out, and it should be fine. Yeah, apparently I think you can change the angle. Yeah, I've heard that, Geary. Problem is, anything you send into Dunhill to do is absolute fortunes. Yeah, sure. Well, Tim, it depends what made you start with the name Wharf Valley Boy, and whether that still applies, and whether you might, after a while, not be happy with Hermit. So I opened that in order to change the flint on the other day, and that went fine. That spring's okay. That spring's okay. The closer. No, it's not a pipe lighter. Sparks nicely. Now, all I need is gas. Right. So how's everybody been enjoying 4th of July? Congratulations to all of you who are celebrating. Hey man, it's your channel. You do what you see fit, Tim. Vlad the Inhaler, how you doing? Well, here in the UK, we've had some serious decreases in the restrictions. Weddings have taken place for the first time. Pubs have opened for the first time. So, we were thinking that we'll turn the news on after the Sabbath and we'll hear of things happening in pubs and stuff, but I haven't heard anything. It all seems to have gone fairly smoothly. Hey Vision, how you doing? Haven't seen you for a while. I've got a couple of old electronic old boy lighters which need servicing. So this is the Peterson, and I've got to say that when it works, it's a delightful lighter. It works very, very well. It's just that it's the third one. It's the third one I've had because they fell apart. So this one I don't take it out with me. The other ones I took with me in the car in my pocket. It was a go-to lighter when I had it, but it fell apart. So this one I just leave on my desk. I don't run around with it. So it seems to be okay. If I look after it, it's okay. This is my go-to lighter. But in terms of quality, its fit and finish is very good on it, yes. But until it works, I can't really tell you. But it feels solid in the hand. It certainly feels heavier than that, no question about it. It feels more solid. And I think they cram, they use all the space inside there to make that lighter. But when you compare it to, say, one of these knockoff DuPonts, this one's even more solid. And this one has the ping, of course. I need to refill it, and I've lost the adapter, so that's not going to happen too quickly. But this one feels really solid. It feels really sharp. It feels well made. The plating will probably start to come off. I think it already is. But I think these are fantastic for the money. Yeah, James, I would agree with you. I don't bother. If you want it to look shiny and new every day, then yes, you'd have to clean it all the time. The Kabuto I had and sold. Actually very nice lighters. But somebody, I don't remember who it was, saw me using it and just said they want it, and they bought it. I might even still have one, because I had two to start with. unless I'm confusing it with a different lighter brand. These are all my lighters. Most of them don't work. Some of you have seen these probably before. So this is a Slavinelli, but it's an IM Corona. So that's an electric one. It still sparks, but there's no gas, and this one leaks as well. So it doesn't keep the gas, but it's a very nice one. I think it's silver plated. It's made by IM Corona. It has one of those built-in tampers. No, not a Kibito. This is a Maraman. That's the one I meant. Same kind of old boy style. It's got this like a tang on the end of it there. And it's actually also a very, very nice lighter. Very solid, well made, Japanese. Very nice lighters. And I've got a couple of these Ronson Veriflame lighters. That's a very nice one, nice ceramic insert. This one is actually, I think this one works. I think this one is fully operational. But it's really for cigarettes, you know, it's not really ideal for pipes. In very nice condition, this one. I just like the whole look of these, they just got a great look to them. You know, it really reminds me of the American cars, the older American cars. This one doesn't work. This is a leather covered one. The gas is okay, I think, but the spring here that holds the flint doesn't catch anymore. It just pops out all the time. Pierre Cardin. That one does work actually. Another electric one, Sarome. This one leaks as well. Made in Japan. Still sparks, but it needs to be. Just don't know if it's worth messing around with them. Calibri. This one was a very frustrating buy for me. Also with a tamper. And they're supposed to be great. It's got a lovely big adjustment wheel here, but they just, half the time, they just don't fire. See, it fires every other time, or not at all. And I just found it too frustrating to use. It's another IM Corona. They all spark, but they don't fire most of the time. And this is a Calibri, which is very well used. I used that for a long time. Very slim. I bought it because of the slimness of it. It fires, it probably needs gas, but a really nice lighter actually. And then a couple of junk ones. I wouldn't say I collect watches. I have maybe 8 or 10 watches, most of them not working, battery's gone, and quite a few years ago I stopped buying battery operated watches. Again, another frustrating situation. It's expensive, and they don't. Depending on where you go, they don't seal it properly, and it's just frustrating. And if you send it to a professional company, they just take forever. For instance, I used to have tag watches. I don't have any now, but I used to have tags. And to send it off to tag to get a battery, you know that you're going to be without your watch for a few months. And in this day and age, I always found that to be ridiculous. So I've stopped buying any quartz watches, and they will be either automatic or some electronic charging device. So, for instance, EcoDrive and Citizen or Seiko will be kinetic, and that's generally the ones that I buy is kinetic. But I'm just too frustrated with quartz watches nowadays. I mean, effectively, the kinetic watches are quartz watches, but you don't have to change the battery. It's a rechargeable battery. Even automatic watches, I find them a little bit frustrating. You know, you could, even if you had a Rolex, which I've never had, but if you had a Rolex, some of them, they just lose the time too much. And I think for that kind of money, a watch should be doing a lot better in keeping time. That's the number one purpose of those watches is to tell the time. And if they can't do it properly, what's the point? For me, kinetic has been my number one, even though they're not necessarily, the most high-end watches, but I also do try to get them with sapphire crystals, if I can. Because I'm not generally that careful with my watches. I wear them; they're there to do a job, and even if I might be at a wedding or I might be in my workshop, I'll wear the same watch. I've never had a Belova watch. To me, but I remember when they came out, and I didn't like them to start with. They look a bit jumped up, a little bit hyped. A lot of stuff is hyped, really. They're all a watch. At the end of the day, they're a watch. Unless you're going to buy some of these really expensive tourbillon kind of things, which are art, really, more than anything else. Hey, John. Actually, I once had one of these knockoff Rolexes, and it was actually a very good watch. It had a Swiss movement, and it was actually very good. Some of the knockoff stuff in the world today is really actually pretty good quality. I'm all right, John. I've been looking at solar powered ones actually, Chad. I haven't actually bought one so far. But is the EcoDrive a solar one? Did I get your email? When was that, Paul? I'm not sure if I did, Paul. Oh, maybe. If it was a while back, then I probably did. Oh, you sent your address. Yeah, you did. Yeah, I will get that to you. Golden sliced. All it golden sliced, I assume. I smoked the Sutliff Virginia slices recently, and I jarred it up a while back and didn't really enjoy it. I smoked it the other day. It was actually pretty good. The Sutliff slices, when was it? December 19, so it's not a year, it's half a year. 7 months. And it's actually improved in that 7 months. I think I got this from Cuppa Joe's. That was the time I ordered a bunch of pipe and tobacco magazines. Paid an absolute fortune in shipping. But I figured I'd get some tobacco as well, and I think I got 4 ounces of that, slices. Yeah, McClellans were fantastic. I'm lucky enough to have quite a decent amount in my cellar. But interestingly, I don't find myself reaching for it as much as I thought I would. I'm really enjoying some of the more run-of-the-mill tobaccos and a couple of the aromatics, as you know. I enjoy a little distraction with some of the small batches every so often. But yeah, I agree, Josh. I mean, all these code names for the Sutliff matches, it's ridiculous. I don't know why they can't just give them normal names. That's the leather bag that the pipe came in. I do like his bags. I really need to get me some good bags. I have struggled a little bit with finding stuff to get my branding. I bought some basic bags. They're okay for now, but at some point I need to up the ante a little bit with some of the accoutrements that go with my pipes, but at the moment I'm much happier making sure that the pipes themselves are good. Frogmorton or Frogmorton Cellar. I smoked Frogmorton Cellar more than I did Frogmorton, so I can't really give you an informed observation about Frogmorton. I didn't smoke it enough, and it's a long time since I've smoked it. But the Frogmorton Cellar is very nice. When I'm in the mood for some Latakia. I did think of that, Paul. My mum is a bit of a seamstress. She's done sewing all her life, so maybe I might ask her. I mean, she hasn't done it for a living. She's just done it as a hobby, but she was an administrator in a school for most of her life. She's only just now retiring. Alright, let's get this packed away. Yeah, that would be quite cool actually, to brand it. Still working on a logo generally. I still haven't got my stamping on the pipes resolved, which I would like to do. Struggling with that, so let's see. Yeah, Paul, I'm not discounting what you did. I'm very grateful to you for that. It's probably going to end up being part of, a few people have sent me suggestions, and it'll probably be an amalgamation of a few different ideas. So whatever anybody has sent me will contribute to it. So definitely wasn't a wasted effort, and I appreciate it. So I'm not discounting that in any way, shape or form. Right, that's Northern Dries out of the way. I smoked the Barling the other day. It actually smoked very well. I smoked blend 131, the whiskey blend in it, to make sure that I get a good strong flavour through it. It has got a really old sort of flavour in there, and it's not for the faint-hearted until you get it through and start to get your own blends sort of in there, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I understood that, Paul. I understood that. It is an old pipe, yeah. It's probably from around the 60s or 70s. Would I consider doing an LCS Pipe of the Year similar to what Briar Blues does? Not at the moment, no. It's a nice idea, but I'm not yet at that stage where I want to be committed to producing a large number of pipes. At the moment, I'm just going at my own pace. Am I the only pipe smoker in my family? Yes, definitely. I think in my whole general personal life, I think I know about 3 pipe smokers. It's very few and far between. So in case anybody doesn't know, Tree sent me a few pipe stummels, 2 barlings. So this was one of the barlings, which I sanded back to the briar and restained and made new stems. They came without stems, and I put new stems on them. This is an old pressed stem from, I'm not even sure where they're from Germany somewhere, but just a very interesting looking stem. Where's the other one? Yeah, this one was nestling in there, one of my recent pipes, which I've kept for myself. Smokes very nicely. Oh, here it is. That's the other barling, which came out a little bit lighter, but just look at the grain on this pipe. It is unbelievable. I haven't fully ascertained what era this barling is. And this here, this sort of cross grain going across, I didn't even know it was there. Before I sanded it, it was because I had a dark stain. I hadn't even noticed it. I noticed this bird's eye, and I wanted to bring that out. I mean, the truth of the matter is, this deserves a contrast stain, but I didn't want to completely eradicate the original intention. And pipes generally in those days were made that way. But it's got the barling in script there, and London, England underneath it in block. Ethel Merman, never heard of him or her. Never heard of Ethel Merman at all. Yeah, I had a fairly narrow musical experience, generally speaking. The type of people that I listen to. How long would it take to ship to America, John? Usually it would take 7 to 10 days. I don't know what it takes nowadays. Type of people that I listen to, I went through various different phases. I went through a Beatles phase, I went through an Elvis phase. I listened to Mike and the Mechanics. I listened to Neil Diamond for a while. I listened to Phil Collins. I listened to, and kind of my taste changed as well as time went on. Who else? I did a time when I was into opera quite a lot. I listened to a lot of, what's his name now? You can see how much I listened to it. But I did listen quite a lot to his, almost every album of his, the blind opera singer, tenor. Can't absolutely love his voice. He's got a great voice. Well, if nobody remembers, I'm going to search it. That's it. Andrea Bocelli. Yes, thank you. No, not Roy Orbison. Andrea Bocelli. I think he's got a phenomenal voice. If you watch him, not Placido Domingo, I don't think he was blind, or is blind. But Andrea Bocelli, the first time I saw him was in a live concert. I wasn't, obviously it was on screen, but it was a live concert in an auditorium outdoors in one of the old Italian ruins. And it was just spellbinding. At that time, when I first saw him, I didn't know he was blind. But when I was watching him, you could see there was something. He had his eyes closed the whole time. I didn't know it was because he was blind, but he had his eyes closed, and there was just something spiritual about it. He's also a modern sort of pop singer as well in Italy, kind of somewhere in between pop and opera, like a jazzed up kind of type of music as well. But it was the opera. I mean, he hasn't got like this booming baritone kind of voice. He's a tenor, he's a little bit higher, and his pitch and his timbre is just, I haven't heard anybody like him. Just phenomenal. The control of his voice is just amazing. And yeah. It's Andrea Bocelli. It's with an A on the end. You got it there pretty much. Yeah, the Bocelli, I think you've spelt correctly. But I think he's a great singer. I haven't listened to him for a long time, but when I was into it, I listened to him all the time. And who else? And some of the regulars, a bit of Madonna and a bit of trying to think of some of maybe the English ones that I was into. Some of the pop stuff as well. When what's his name was out, I listened to him a bit. I liked his stuff from the stock Aitken and Waterman era. What was his name now? Quite a shy fella, big tall Geordie, I think, with maybe a ginger top. George Michael, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I'm a closet Spice Girls fanboy. No, I never really got into the Spice Girls. Spice up your life! No, never really got into the Zigga Zigga. George Michael, actually, really amazing voice. Amazing voice. Justin Bieber. I don't think I've ever heard a song by him, if I'm honest. Rick Astley, that's who I was thinking of. Rick Astley, he didn't last long. He was groomed by Stock Aitken and Waterman, which was a very big sort of company producer label in the 80s and 90s. And I really enjoyed. I don't know why I related to Rick Astley at the time, and he didn't really make it. I thought he should have made it a lot more. He had an amazing voice. He actually had quite a baritone voice. And when he heard him sing, he thought it was a bit out of place, a bit incongruous with his voice. His voice, you felt, should be used for opera. And when he sang a pop song with that voice, it just seemed a bit odd. Annie Lennox, very good. Yeah. Who did she sing for? What was the name of the group? Eurythmics, thank you. Yeah, I listened to them quite a bit as well. Yeah, she was very good. Dire Straits, no, not Led Zeppelin. I didn't get into any metal, heavy metal, or anything, any of that kind of stuff at all. Who? Annie Lennox? Never heard that. Rowan Atkinson, yeah, very funny guy. Who else? Who else in that era? I was very moved by Mike and the Mechanics in the Living Years, and that's how I kind of got into his kind of music. Um, Roxette singer, right? Elton John. Never really got, I mean, I listened to some of it, but I don't think I ever bought an album of his. I'm just trying to think back to, oh yeah, Tina Turner. I listened to Tina Turner quite a bit. I'm just trying to think back to the old days, the old cassette tapes that I used to have in my car, boxes of them. No, I never got into The Who or the Rolling Stones. I don't know why. Yeah, Mike and the Mechanics. That's Mike Rutherford. Paula Abdul. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I got into her so much. It was, she was on the radio and that when she was famous, but yeah. Oh, I'll tell you another one that I listened to. I'm trying to remember her name now. Obviously, I can't remember her name. She sang, Suzanne Vega. Her name was Suzanne Vega. Loved her voice. Absolutely loved her voice. She does one song, a cappella. Solitude Standing was the name of the album. I think she only released like one or two albums. But absolutely, Enya's another one, quite ethereal, Enya. Very sort of spiritual kind of type, sort of misty-eyed kind of music. But very samey. A lot of the songs are very samey. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor. I live upstairs from you. Oh, I love that. I love that album. I listened to it over and over and over again. Can't believe I actually remember some of the words. No, not Beth Orton. Bon Jovi, yeah, I didn't really buy his stuff. I heard it, but I didn't buy it. No, not Enigma. I think I remember hearing some of it, but no, not Meatloaf. Keep 'em coming. You got to go back to the 80s and 90s, really, which was I was born in 69, so around the mid to late 80s is when I was kind of listening to that kind of stuff, in my late teens. Jerry Lee Lewis. Nope. I watched the movie, that I enjoyed. I don't remember what the name of the movie was, but I enjoyed it. Kate Bush, it's kind of in the Enya kind of sort of, Queen, for sure. Definitely Queen. And Wham. Wham was great. Depeche Mode, yes, a great name. Oh man, now you're bringing them up. Depeche Mode I haven't listened to for years. Kathy Dennis, I listened to a little bit of her. But hi Ken. Never really got into country. Never really got into country at all. Fleetwood Mac was great. Yeah, I'm listening to Fleetwood Mac. There's what's his name who used to sing. I was mesmerized by him. An English singer who got caught in some German drug cult kind of thing. I'm sure some of you know the story. Vlad, you must know who I'm talking about. Or Paul. No, never got into Oasis. ABBA, great band. ABBA, their music is fantastic. ABBA is just so melodious. Just the harmonies in ABBA really caught me. I went through an ABBA period as well. I'm trying to walk like an Egyptian. No, never got into AC/DC. Sinatra, I did actually for a bit, but I don't think I ever went out and bought his stuff. But the Bangles, yeah, I enjoyed those. But I'm trying to remember the name of this English guy who sang. I think he sang for Fleetwood Mac, possibly. Chad, an English guy who sang. I don't remember the group. Is it Peter Green? Yes. It was Peter Green. Yeah. And when I heard him sing, I then sought out his stuff that he sung solo. I mean, on his own rather than with the band. And again, another really just listening to his song. Some of them, they just take me to another place. He's got one of these, the ability. I mean, his guitar playing was also superb. But I'm trying to remember the name of the song. But he sings in such a delicate way, unbelievable. You know, there's no shouting and screaming, just. I'm trying to remember the name of the song. It's such a moving song as well. But you know, sometimes when people sing, you've got to really be singing at full pelt to really get the nuances of what they're singing. He was almost at a whisper, but he could change, and the timbre in his voice, the control of his voice was just phenomenal, really phenomenal. I've got to look up that stuff again. Green Maharishi, yeah. I've got to start looking it up again. Rear of the Year, Chris Rea joke. We're still doing songs, Daniel. We're still doing music. What else? Never got into Tom Waits or Marky Mark. Believe it or not, and then that's why you might call me a Spice Girls closet fan, Mike. But I actually enjoyed Bros. When they first came out. I thought he actually had a great voice. Very pop music-y, of course. But he actually had a very good voice. When will I be famous? MC Hammer, can't touch this. Do 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 do, do do do. Can't touch this. You got to be wearing knickerbockers for that song. Ice, ice, baby. As a young man, many moons ago, generally speaking, singers who were rebellious or gave this really aggressive image of themselves, I generally didn't gravitate towards those people. Just wasn't in my nature. So people like, what's his name, Eminem, those kind of people, I never really was interested. Dexys Midnight Runners a little bit before me. No, never got into David Essex either. You got to bear in mind that for my upbringing, which was in a very orthodox environment, we didn't listen to that kind of stuff as a rule. So, although I say that the music that I listened to was fairly narrow, it certainly was compared to somebody like Chad, but I was myself, I suppose, being somewhat rebellious by listening to all of that stuff. No, never got into the clash. Never clashed with a clash. There's a few that I've got to look up again. I'm gonna have to write down some of these names that we've been talking about. Depeche Mode is one that I've got to try again. And Peter Green, definitely got to look up Peter Green again. I did when I was in that sort of phase. I downloaded as much as I could. I've got to find that. It's somewhere on one of my drives somewhere. My problem is that because of my photography, I go through hard drives very quickly, and on average I go through about 4 terabytes a year. So I've got a box full of drives, and whenever I want to find something, it takes me forever to find stuff. I went through a time with headphones as well. I spent a fortune on headphones, and headphone amplifiers as well I had for a while as well. I went through a phase, let's put it that way. I wouldn't spend that kind of money nowadays, but I went through a phase in my early marriage, even before I got married. I spent a fair bit of money on hi-fi. I spent a fortune on car hi-fi. Ooh, yeah, Tam, I can if I want to, but I can't get my voice going because people are asleep. Charlotte Church. Ooh. It's a shame when you see some people of such amazing potential and either stardom got to them or it just didn't work out or they'd had enough. REM. I think I bought one album of REM's, but probably on the strength of one song that was good, that I'd enjoyed. No, I don't know any of these. Curiosity Killed the Cat, I do recognise that name, because at the time I did buy the Now compilation albums on cassette. You know, Now 15, Now 16, Now 17. So there was a period where I bought every single one. I haven't got them anymore. So you used to have all the hits of the year. So Curiosity Killed the Cat was definitely on one of those. John's a great singer. Definitely should check out. John, you haven't done any music recently, have you? Kraftwerk. That sounds like a German name. Jazz and Jive. Foreigner. I remember Foreigner as well. Lul. There's the Lul. You've moved into a new house. Congratulations. How come you moved? Did you move into the same area or you moved completely out of the area? bought a house. Wow, good for you. $67, not too bad for a freehand. I actually think I am going to sell it. Don't know, we'll see. Duran, yeah. Yep, I definitely listened to them, but I didn't buy any of their stuff, I don't think. Yeah, Wham, I enjoyed Wham. It's got a bit of a Chariton look to it. That little step there. The Boomtown Rats. Well, there's still a few pipes available from that sale, quite a few, so you never know. If there's any of them there that you like, by all means get in touch. Bros. Yeah, I mentioned them before, Tree. I did like Bros. I actually thought he had a good voice. That one I'll probably contrast stain it. Although it would look nice in a very light stain as well. It's got good grain. Yeah, definitely listen to Dire Straits. I've got their album, Well, besides for that, there's obviously been more pipes made since anyway, so there's plenty of pipes to choose from. This is my latest one. This is an 8-inch long pipe. It's a long pipe. By contrast to the Northern Briars. There's this egg plateau. But overall, pipes have been selling well. Got a few available. Got that volcano still, the square shank volcano. It's got great grain on it. The bold depth. Let me get my ruler. This is a very scientific way of measuring. I think it's about 30 mil. It's quite shallow. Yeah, it's about 30 mil. I think it's a 20 mil wide bowl. It's got good drilling, and it'd be a really cool smoker, being that it's a nice long pipe, got good thick walls. It's a really nice pipe to sit and relax with, not one to run around in your car with, but really nice one to smoke at home. And the same with this one as well. Bananarama. How about Yaz? The only way is up, baby, you and me. As in, don't give up the day job. You're probably right. Oops. Charlotte Churchwood, a nice one tree. That's the old puffer I made a long time ago. I just put a church warden on it the other day. It's one of my first pipes, this one. Oh, excuse me. Alright people, I think I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to load another bowl before I go. Just got to decide what to have. Or maybe I should have a cigar. What do you think? Going to make myself a cuppa. Well, if you want to wait, I'm going to go make myself a cuppa. We can leave it on. You want to hang around? You want me to stay on or call it a day? What do you want? Happy to oblige. You're going to hang. Alright, I'll be back shortly. Just going to make myself a cuppa. A cuppa? That's a Madonna song, isn't it? Hello again. Hey, Paul. Right, Penzance. Wouldn't worry about it too much, Daniel. I have been fortunate enough to get some, but it's a very nice tobacco, but I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. Plenty of similar, maybe not the same, but similar Latakia blends out there for you. Wouldn't worry about it at all. Strang? No, I've not had Strang tobacco. I would say in the first 18 months to 2 years of smoking a pipe, I also went through that period of having to try all of those tobaccos, and I had to chase them down till I got them. And a lot of them were really very good, but you can actually drive yourself a little bit crazy, and it's there's so many tobaccos out there. There's nothing out there that's so much better that you absolutely have to turn over every stone in order to get it. There isn't a single blend out there, because every single blend, we all have slightly different palates or very different palates, and what might be somebody's absolutely utopian blend may be rubbish to you. So I wouldn't worry about it at all if you can't get it, and just enjoy the stuff that you can get. There's plenty of tobacco out there. Quite Nice is very nice. I did a three-way test, three-way shootout a long time ago. You could check it out on my channel. It was Penzance, Quiet Nights, and Star of the East. And I think actually I preferred, on the day, I think I actually went with Quiet Nights. And I'll tell you something else as well, is that you do get differences in batches. Sometimes I've had Penzance that's been absolutely amazing, and sometimes it's been just okay. Yeah, 100%, Tim, for sure. But when I was in the throes of that stage, when I wanted to get stuff, I just, you don't think like that. It's like, when you're in a stage of impulse with anything in life, you don't think. It's like love is blind, and you don't think, straight. And when you're in the initial throes of Tabacchiana, or Lady Latakia, when she gets her mitts into you, you don't necessarily think that way, and because everybody's hyping about it, you just feel that you have to get it. And I'm still, to some extent, I still do that. I still like trying out the small batch releases and things like that. Try Star of the East, Daniel. Yeah, 100%, Tim. I'm the same. I'm happy if I get something which is, I'm really grateful to the people in the States, especially, that send me tobacco that I'm trying to get sometimes, and I'm happy to send it back across, English stuff. But definitely, I think also it takes time for your palate to really appreciate tobacco better. So Penzance has got it's a great tobacco. It's got a fantastic flavour, and when you're sort of on the chase to try and find it, and then you get it, you taste it, and then you think, okay, this is what it's supposed to taste like. It's really good, and therefore this flavor profile has to be the pinnacle of what a Balkan blend should be, because in your mind you've chased this down, you've spent so much effort and time and money on getting it. But when your palate matures over a few years, and you actually start to enjoy and recognize what you like, and you don't get led by the reputation of a tobacco, that's when things start to change. And that's why, unbelievably, I'm smoking aromatics more than probably anything else at the moment, which a year ago I would have laughed at that suggestion. But it's just the way it goes. You know, your palate changes, and you become mature enough to realize that you want to smoke what you like and not what everybody says you should like. And that's where I'm at the moment. But I still love the experimentation, of course. I still enjoy trying out lots of different tobaccos. There's still definitely a distinct hobby element in it for me. As I said recently on one of my videos, I think it was a live video, what I don't want is for my channel to become all about selling pipes, even though I do a lot of it on the channel, but I still want it to be about the hobby. I do have some Oriental Dreams. I think I still do have that. I'm gonna have to give it a try. This is a lighter, a desk lighter. It's actually a very nice lighter. You can adjust it from a soft flame to a jet, and you can adjust the size, and you can actually hold the button so that it stays on. Nice lighter. Yeah, Richard, definitely. You definitely need to let Virginia's age a bit. The oldest tobacco that I've got at the moment is probably a very, very big tin of half and half. It's your pervy mind, Tim. Unless I've used something like that before. I see why you're a hermit. I get it. You know yourself so well, Tim. Good name, Hermit Piper. Rockin' steady, how you doing? What, like the old-fashioned horns? Hot smoke as in hot temperature, or hot as in you like it? Doing well, rockin' steady, doing well. Thank God. I don't know, traditionally, I suppose in the winter months, you know, I often smoked Latakia blends, but I've been all over the place in the last couple of years. Yeah, that mug is actually a picture of one of my videos, which Artie, from Artie's place, he sent me 4 mugs with different pictures on them, some of them of my desk. It was very cool. He took screen grabs and had these made and sent to me. Artie's not very happy with me at the moment, but there you go. Ron Hardcrackers Ward. I don't think I've seen you before. Welcome. Am I going to light up my new panelled pipe? I'm sure I will. I don't think I'll do it tonight though. I've actually got a few new pipes which I haven't yet broken in. Still got that Phil Rivara pipe which I haven't billiard, which I haven't smoked yet. Don't know what I've done with it. What is this pipe? Oh, this is the one that my son made. It's a billiard that I made with my son. It's a nice little pipe. It needs a little bit of more sanding there. But it's a nice pipe. Here it is. We've met on Zoom. All right. I don't know which one you were though. Next time I'm on, say hi and tell me that you're Ron Hardcrackers. The Brigham pipe. Well, no, it's not really. It's not a filtered pipe really for me. I've got a tin of Ashton's, old Ashton's made by McLaren. It's called Old Church, and I opened it a while ago, and I haven't smoked it. I didn't enjoy it. Maybe I'll try it again. It's an old tin from the 90s. It's a 100-gram tin, and it's called Ashton's. I think it's called Old Church. I think it's an aromatic, and apparently it's as rare as hen's teeth, and worth a lot of money. But I don't know. I didn't think much of it. Maybe I have to try it again. They do have the maple filter, but it's not really the same kind of thing as the carbon filters. I think OCD Piper sent it to me. Is he Canadian? That's original Old Church. It's from 1998. Good night, John. All the best. It's still full. It looks like McLaren tobacco, but I think, to me, if I would have to guess, I would say it's something like 5100 with a topping. Tim, anything's possible, but I doubt it. I don't know how long Melina's been going, but I'd be really surprised if Ashton used Melina pipes. More likely that Melina modelled it on a shape that they'd seen. Good night, Paul. Nice chatting. Thanks for joining again. Very dark chocolate notes. Yeah, that aroma does make sense. Maybe I'll try some in a minute. I think this is the only other panelled pipe that I've got. This is a Scorti. Very Italian looking pipe. Very Italian type rustication. I don't know how old Molina is, if it's as old as that. Good night, Daniel. All the best. So the description on this old church is an aromatic pipe tobacco of incredible delicacy, matured Virginia cake. Yeah, you see, I wouldn't be surprised if it was their red cake. It's first spun into ribbon and then laced with yellow Carolina ribbon cut and a touch of jet black Cavendish for spice. Really? The result is cool on the tongue and sweet smoking with a mysteriously provocative aroma. Ooh, ah, a favourite all-day tobacco, genuinely soft and sweet all the way down to the bowl. If tobacco's ever tasted like the description... It really looks like red cake. Well, give it a little taster. It's still moist. I mean, because it's an aromatic, it's going to be as well. But you know, from 1998, the aromatics in there have probably broken down by now, and it's probably not tasting good because it's not tasting good. It's probably not how it originally was supposed to taste. I didn't realise it was such an old company. Well, you never know. Maybe they did get Molina pipes. Who knows? There you go. There's the expert. So there you go. Very possible that it just seemed to me a little bit incongruous, but you never know, because I would imagine that the Molinas were a lot cheaper, and being that Astley's were a shop, and these were house pipes, the Astley pipes, rather than their own brand. I mean, it was their own brand, but they never made pipes themselves. So maybe it was, it was a cheaper option for them, so they could make more profit, I guess. I have to say that the Astley pipes that I've smoked so far have been really good. I've been very, very happy with the ones that I've smoked. I've still got one unsmoked one, which each time I do a sale, I often put it in. For some reason it doesn't sell, maybe because I've priced it too high, and maybe subconsciously I've priced it too high because I want to keep it. That's a really nice sandblasted Dublin from Astley, unsmoked. And looking at the bit, I've always said this is an Ashton, but you can never know. You can never really know. But looking at the overall style and looking at the bit, that would have been my guess, that this is an Ashton. But Bill Taylor Ashton, but who would know? Good night, rocking steady. A cobbled monster. You do seem to like monster themes on your pipes, like Quasimodo. This stuff is a little bit goopy. Yeah, I must be honest, Tim. I said this the other day on a video. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it. You know, some of the cheapest pipes can give you the best smokes, and some of the most expensive ones can give you mediocre smokes. I think it's just pot luck to some extent. Not completely, but to some extent, it's pot luck. You know, you just don't know what briar block you're going to get. And of course, everything contributes, whether it's the age of the briar, perhaps in a limited way contributes. The curing of the briar, the way the pipe is made, of course, has an effect. But in my limited experience, the pipes that I've smoked, whether I've made them or whether I've bought them, whether they've been drilled 100% or not drilled 100%, I've yet to see any kind of rhyme or reason to what makes a good smoke in a pipe. This pipe here, this is one which I made and kept for myself. The drill is off to the right a bit. Comes out a little bit high, I think, in the bowl as well, if I'm not mistaken. That's probably why I kept it. And it smokes great, absolutely great. And some other pipes, yeah, of course, you know, you have to be patient and make sure you break them in, and maybe I'm a bit impatient sometimes. But as I say, in my limited experience smoking a pipe, almost 5 years, as I say, it's fairly limited compared to some people, but I've yet to see any rhyme or reason. Any rhyme or reason that you could rely on, that you could predict. And I think Mike said the same recently in one of his videos recently, and Mike certainly has had a lot more experience than most. Other than that, not much else to say. I'm actually still smoking this Briar Blues Pipe of the Year with some London Fog. Well, gentlemen, I think the time has come. I'm out of things to say, unless any of you want to bring up a new topic. Yeah, that's the way it goes, Josh. As I say, I'm more than happy to chat, but I don't like to hold people on just for the sake of it. I don't like to waffle. So more than happy, if any of you got any topics that you want to talk about and you want to raise, go for it. And if I've got any particular take on it, happy to share it. But otherwise, Yeah, I will do that, Richard. If you give me a couple of minutes, I will try that Ashton, just to give you some comments on it. It's been a long time since I tried it. Tell us a story, Daddy. Well, actually, I can tell you a story if you want. If I remember the details, it's traditional on the Sabbath. You sit down with a family for a family meal, and I always say a story or two, an inspirational story or two for the children, and they love it. They absolutely love it. And I told a story today. It's obviously it's got a it's obviously it's a Jewish theme, but see if I can remember the story. The theme of the story is. Well, I'll wait for Josh to finish. Boom, boom. I thought when he said start, I thought something else was going to come, which rhymes with start. But it didn't. Let me just gather my shorts and my thoughts and see if I can remember the whole story. Hang on a tick. All right, so I just wanted to get the book so that I could read it in a bit of a more informed way. I'm just going to find the story. This is a compilation kind of book with lots of different stories. Richard, what made me want to create my own pipes? Well, it was just a natural progression for me. I'm the type of person that when I get into a hobby, I tend to go the whole hog, and it was just a natural. Many people that smoke a pipe will, at some point in time, get one of those hobby blocks and try their hand at fashioning their own pipe, make one or two, and leave it at that. I did that, and I think over a period of 2 or 3 years, I made 2 or 3 pipes during vacation time or something like that, and I smoked one of them, I think, and that was that. But I don't remember what it was that triggered it. I think it was just that as I made more of those blocks, I just felt that it was coming naturally to me, and I got some fairly decent shapes out of the pipes and just progressed from there, really. And eventually bought the lathe, and that kind of just, it went from there. All right, so if you want to hear this story, as I say, it's got a bit of a Jewish theme about it, but the story could happen to anyone. And this is a true story. It's written in a book. As I say, it's a compilation book, which is written by a very, very well-known personality. And he's generally got a very good reputation for telling over true stories. And he's a world-renowned speaker on the Jewish circuit, and he travels around the world, and he's very well known. So, here's the story. June 1944. The World War II was raging, especially in Europe, and American soldiers were hurriedly being trained at bases all around the United States. I guess that would have been after Pearl Harbor. But anyway, they really got into the war quite quickly at that stage, and they trained quickly and were rushed off to combat. There was this guy who was an Orthodox Jew from Savannah, Georgia, and he was stationed at Fort Lewis Air Force Base in Seattle. And he realized that before long he'd be shipped off to fight overseas. But one of the Jewish holidays was coming up, and he wanted to be able to spend it in a religious environment. He wanted to be able to go to synagogue and so on. He was given permission to furlough for a bit. The holiday was just a 2-day holiday. And you off then, Tree? Am I boring you? Night, Tree. Thanks for joining. Anyway, so this guy in the Air Force, it was on the first night of the festival, and he had gone to spend the festival with a well-known philanthropic family in Seattle. And he went to join the synagogue for the prayers, and the tradition on this particular festival was to stay up and study or pray all night. And the tradition at this particular community was that the next morning after prayers, they would all sit down and have a nice party. And the guy who hosted the party was a well-known person, and he sat at the top of the table, and they each had a bit of schnapps, a bit of whiskey, and he gave them all, good wishes. And he noticed this soldier in his uniform, sort of leaning against the wall, feeling a little bit out of it. Obviously, he was a stranger to those people. So this guy, his name was Tuvia. He said, "Soldier, come here, come up front. We're very proud to have you with us." And this soldier, his name is Benjamin, he makes his way slowly to the front of the room, very embarrassed at suddenly being the center of attention. And he said, "Where are you from, soldier?" So he said, "I'm from Savannah, Georgia." "Savannah?" said Tuvia. "I can't believe it." He was shocked, and he said, "Savannah? I really can't believe you're from Savannah." So everybody sit down and let me tell you a story. This is what Tuvia says, the head of the table. And he says the following story. He said he was 15 years old when an uncle brought him from Poland to New York. He arrived in New York, and his uncle told him that, the streets are not paved with gold, as a lot of people thought, and you have to fend for yourself. You're going to have to peddle on the streets, selling some pots and pans or whatever it is you can put your hands on. And at that time, thousands of immigrants were coming in to New York at the time, and there were hundreds of people trying to peddle their wares, trying to eke out a living. And try as he did, whatever he did to try it, he couldn't make a living. This this Tuvia, this host, when he was a kid, and he realized that he's going to have to find a different area in America to try and make a living. So his uncle mentioned that perhaps he might try somewhere further south, go somewhere like Savannah. So he was given some merchandise to sell, and as he was on his trip down to Savannah, he was told quite clearly that Jews and blacks were not very welcome down in the South at the time, in those days. So he was told not to be ostentatious and not to be overtly Jewish in his dress and so on. Anyway, when he finally arrives there, he starts to sell his wares immediately, trying to make some money, and he's arrested after 15 minutes. And he didn't know why he was arrested. He was only 15 years old, and but he was thrown in prison. And he didn't realize that you couldn't just sell your wares just like that on the street. You have to have a license. Eventually, he was pulled out by a guard from the prison and taken to the chief of police. And he goes to the chief of police, and the policeman looks at him, and then he says, "Right, everybody out of the room except for this boy." So all of the other police officers, they listen to the chief of police, they go out of the room, and the room is quiet. It's just the boy and the chief of police. And obviously this boy, Tuvia, didn't know what was going to happen. He was terrified, he was shivering. And the chief of police motions to the boy to come forward. And he says, looks at him carefully, and then he sticks out his hand and he says, "Shalom Aleichem," which is a Jewish greeting. It turns out this chief of police was an Orthodox Jewish person as well. And he says, "They don't like us very much down here, but I'm in charge here, and you've got nothing to worry about." He tells him that you have to have a license. You can't just go selling stuff on the street. I'll help you get a license. You do things the official way, and you'll be fine. So that's what he did. And he set him up, and long story short, this is Tuvia now hosting this party. He's a successful man, all because of the help that he got from this police officer. And so that's the story he wanted to tell. And he says, because of that help that I got in Savannah, I'm always really delighted to see people from Savannah. So they thought that was the end of the story. This Benjamin, this soldier, says, "Sir," he says to Tuvia, "you should know that the chief of police that you met was actually my father." And everybody's jaw dropped. You know, it's one of those moments where things come full circle. And it's these kind of stories which, you know, obviously his father had done a kindness to Tuvia when he was a kid, and now Tuvia was hosting the chief of police's son and helping him out. It's one of those sort of full circle stories where you see the wheels turning. And as I said to my kids today, you know, you hear these stories in all circles. It applies to everybody. But what I said to my kids was that, you know, everything in life has a purpose. We all have a purpose in life. We don't always see it. We don't always see the wheels that turn. Every so often we get a little glimpse into the huge sort of things that go round. And every so often we'll see things coming full circle. And when you see that, it's a bit of an enlightening moment, which just tells you, gives you a bit of confidence, a bit of, makes you feel warm inside, just to hear stories like that, which, you know, just makes you feel good. So that was the story I told today. You're talking about a story which spanned probably 40 or 50 years till it came around. It's just, you could call it coincidence, I suppose. Right, let's try some of this Ashton Old Church, original Old Church. BU, I don't know how you pronounce that. BU. Thank you for joining. You can contact me on lcsbriars@gmail.com. lcsbriars@gmail.com. There you go. Ah, so you're a Brit, Richard. Granola bars. Okay. What year is yours from? Luton. Huh. Not too far away from me. $1999 you were born? You're a baby. Oh, the year of the tobacco, sorry. Oh, what a twit. Okay, similar age. This one's 98. That's well said, Boko. You're born 1990, so still a baby. Good for you. 30 years old. Yep. The smell of this tobacco and the flavor of it reminds me of some of the OTCs in America, like Half and Half and that kind of stuff. It's got a very sort of American-y aromatic type flavor. Not really what I like. It almost tastes a bit burley-ish, but it hasn't got burley in it. Yeah, one of those, James. One of those. Just driving the car. Going to a smoke lounge is intimidating. Oh well. What, because the average age is older? I drive on the correct side, yes, I do. No, I drive on the left. It's got a bit of a winey taste as well, like a deep, dark wine taste. The retro, maybe a very mild Virginia. It's not a tobacco which I like, really. Allah, how you doing? How long does it take to smoke a pipe? It really depends on how much tobacco you put in it. So it depends on the size of the pipe and how much tobacco you fill it with. There's no straight answer to that question. Each pipe will have a slightly different depth or width, and they'll have different times on them. Are they mostly smoking pipes or cigars there, Richard? The Virginias are coming through now. I get what you mean about the retro hill, definitely. But to me, it's an awful waste of good McClellan tobacco. I think putting flavorings on a McClellan Virginia is sacrilege. to me personally. Yeah, mostly cigars. So, I mean, they're not going to have much to talk to you about if they're onto cigars and they're not interested in pipes. But I find a lot of the time, once you start talking, it doesn't have to be about cigars or pipes. You just talk about anything. And you'll just generally find that people are really happy to just chat. Oftentimes, I've sat in the Dunhill shop in St James's. I used to, obviously before COVID, I would go maybe once every few weeks just to sit and take a couple of hours out of life and just sit there. And usually there's one or two people there. And we could get into some really deep philosophical discussions. Really, really. I remember one time I was sitting there and there was I don't know if he was a priest or some guy from Africa, maybe Nigeria possibly. I don't remember which country. But he was quite evangelical. He was trying to persuade me that Jesus was the Lord. And I said, I'm not going to argue with you. I just have a different religion. For you, everybody has their religion and has their beliefs. I'm not going to try and persuade you to believe what I believe. And I'm not ready to accept a different religion on the basis of a chat. But he was really so forceful about it. He really wanted me to, like, in his mind, he was trying to save me. He was trying to save me from making the biggest mistake of my life. And yeah, it was an interesting chat, though. I enjoy those kind of chats. Are you in California? That's heavy stuff. When I had that when I went to a cigar shop, Salter Cigars, they've got like 3 or 4 chairs in there, and I also felt, even now at the age of 50, I went in there, and I'd been there a couple of times and tried to sort of get into it. A guy behind the till is somebody that I knew, and he sort of begged me to come and try one of their cigars, and I sat down, and yeah, I mean, once you break the ice, it's absolutely fine. I'm Jewish, James. Or some people would say, I'm Jew-ish. No, I'm Jewish. I wouldn't necessarily say that the topping on this is too heavy. It's just the flavour that I'm not particularly enjoying. It's one of those flavours which they put together by putting a load of stuff together, like half and half. It's not the same flavour as half and half, but it's that kind of idea. Brown stem Rhodesian by the jar. Do you mean the Bulldog or the Rhodesian? Dog. This is a Tom Phillips Bulldog. The other one is a Northern Briars Quebec, quite right. But this is a Tom Phillips Bulldog. Excuse me. He also made me this pipe. This was a commission going back a while. But this is a great pipe, really very nice pipe. I like his rustication, reminds me of Les Wood rustication. It's a short stubby bulldog. I'm trying to remember if I re-drilled this one. I re-drilled this one, it was too narrow, it was whistling. But this one smokes great. Yeah, it is a bulldog, diamond shank. I think he actually made me 3 stems for this because the 2 before I wasn't happy with, so it was very nice of him to do that. But he stopped making pipes. He used to make them every so often. I think I had in total 4 pipes from him, and I've got 2 left, or maybe 3, and I sold one. One of them was like a Lovat, and these are the 2 that I'm left with, and they both smoke very, very well. Certainly this one was much improved once I drilled it. Yeah, I mean he's actually, I mean his pipes were very, very, very well priced. Good pipe maker. It's just a shame that he hasn't continued. He had some problems with his machinery, and he just said that's it. He's not going to repair it anymore, and he just left. He had it. He was only part time, so he was. I don't know what career he had or has. He did the pipes part time, and just made some really good pipes. Hey Phil. Yeah, the Sunbearer is actually really nice. It's got some Orientals in there, which is why I enjoyed it. But the Virginias are very good. It's got a little honey addition to it. And the first half of the bowl on this is actually excellent. Second half is not as good as the first for me, but a very, very nice tobacco. And apparently it's being re-released, so when it does come out, if you want it, you got to jump on it. No, that Ashton it's got a lot of, it must have a lot of umescence. All the flavourings, it's quite goopy, quite sticky. I'd probably have to smoke it a lot more to really appreciate it. Because the truth of the matter is the base tobacco is good quality tobacco. The concept is good. It's a good idea, but I just don't think it works. Not to my palate, anyway. Well, I was told that it is going to be re-released, and I've asked somebody to grab me a few tins when it does come out. So hopefully I'll get some tins. I won't be getting 20 tins, that's for sure. For Rivaro, everybody. Nice Cumberland stem. Thank you very much, Phil. I gave it its first smoke since its return, I think on either Wednesday or Thursday. Enjoyed it. I smoked some Northwoods in there. That's what I say to my wife. Phil, do you ever use horn in your pipes? I'll tell you why I ask. I received my pipe back from Northern Briars today. I made this pipe, and I basically made, you may recall, I did that extension out of palm wood. Basically, it was a disaster, and then I ended up having very little to work with. I sent it off to Northern Briars, and he's put a horn extension on it and made a stem. And I'm just wondering, would you normally use the horn itself as the mortise? Is it okay to smoke that? Would you normally wrap the briar with the horn? Yeah, I was just wondering about that. I'm just not sure. Well, we'll see. I don't know if I'll smoke it or I'll sell it. I haven't decided yet. But I'm going to restain it, resand it. It needs to be resanded as well, I can see. And decide what I'm going to do with the staining. I might make this black. I'm not sure. The plateau. It's actually a very nice plateau. I don't know, Boca. It's just, I don't know, just the being in direct contact with horn, which is just I don't know. It's organic, I guess, I suppose, but you just don't know, you know. But I wouldn't have thought this would heat up enough, would it? For that, Phil, would it? Very funny, Josh. Well, I'm gonna stain it up anyway. I have to decide. I'll probably do a light stain on this because I find recently I've been finding that sometimes straight grain, you don't get the best out of it with a dark stain, and sometimes a lighter stain works better. When you're doing bird's eye, a dark stain is nice, the contrast. Although, having said that, this one looks pretty good with a fairly straight grain in places. I don't know, we shall see. I do notice that a lot of the high grains, the high grades rather, they tend to go for light staining. Would you say that, Mike, as well? A lot of the high grades go for lighter staining with straight grain. Yeah, I'm just thinking maybe just to do literally a single coat of tan, maybe, or two coats, and rub it back a little bit. I mean, it has already had a stain of some kind. He's sanded it down, so you can see the grain is quite prominent already. So it may not need much. Ready orange, right. Yeah, I have experimented with that on a couple of pipes. I'm not sure how well it worked, but I did that on the... where is it? I'm not sure if I've sold it already or not. No, it's still here. On this one, it's a little bit patchy, I suppose. I suppose I could sand that and start again. That area there needs to be brought back a bit as well. But this is maybe a little bit more of a contrast. This may well be British tan, it's possible. I do use that now. I'm using, for the most part, at the moment, two stains. I'm using medium brown and British tan. That's what I'm using the most. Sometimes I use dark brown. I very rarely use black nowadays. I'll use black only if I'm sort of staining a rusticated pipe to be black, like this. That's a sandblast. But I don't use black very much, even for the ones that I try to get a contrast stain. I don't use black, I'd rather use the brown and just do multiple layers of it. I find that brown looks better than the black. Sometimes, you know, you've got when you're staining, you've got sometimes lots of little dots between the grain. You've got lots of little dots which take on the stain, and with black I find it just looks a bit messy, and I prefer it in brown. Right, anyway, have you ever tried the red stain as the first one applied? I haven't. No. What, like a proper red? No, I haven't. What would that? How would that? What would that produce? And if I then went on with say a medium brown on top of that. So what would that produce once you took that back to Briar? What would that do on the grain? What colour would that produce? The red will enhance the grain. I'll give that a try. I've got oxblood. I haven't used it yet. I do have oxblood. I think I ordered oxblood the last time. Yeah, that is, I find often with a lot of the pipes where on the side you've got really very good straight grain, on the end you tend to have some bald spots. I do find that a lot. red followed by black. I'll have to give that a try. Yeah, I did that for a while, sort of doing some combinations, but in the end, I just liked the colouring that I was getting, and it's become quite a consistent stain for me. This kind of colour, you can see here, these two are quite consistent, and I think people like it. It gives like a fiery effect, and it's also the way that I'm doing the fading as well sometimes, which just kind of enhances the areas which are brighter, creates another sort of dimension. I do have a bunch of sort of small sort of plastic containers in my drawers in the garage full of different combinations that I have tried, but yeah. You're talking about on a rusticated or a sandblasted pipe, Phil, on the shell finish? Yeah, this is a Soren Refberg pipe, and you can see that. You can see on the edges there's a little bit of a ruddy kind of colour coming through. Although that's probably actually highlights which he's sanded and then stained slightly. Not blending different, oh right, different layers, I get you. Yeah, we'll definitely have to experiment, see how that goes. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to do a pipe tomorrow. Maybe I'll start one. But the wife has lots of plans for tomorrow, and we're supposed to be picking up some chicken eggs tomorrow, which are supposed to hatch in 3 days, to keep the kids entertained. Right, well, it's 10 to 3 in the morning, so I'm going to bid you all adieu, and I will catch you all anon. Thank you very much for staying with me. Hope you've enjoyed this evening's chat. Cheers, Tim. Thanks, Boca. Thanks, James. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Richard, if you're still there. Thank you, Boca. Oh dear, I'm tired. Good night, everybody. Good night, Jim Bob. Catch you on the next one.